be me. 27. High school PE teacher. Progressive as hell. Master's degree in education with a focus on equity and inclusion. Run the school's diversity committee. Organized 3 walkouts over dress code policies I deemed sexist. Got the principal to ban dodgeball because it promotes violence and targets the weak. Call myself an ally to marginalized students. Spend weekends at social justice workshops. Always believed traditional sports were toxic masculinity in motion. Football teaches aggression. Wrestling is just homoerotic violence. Basketball rewards genetic advantages. Competitive sports are just capitalism with a scoreboard. One staff meeting. Superintendent announces new initiative. Safe competition framework for inclusive athletics. I'm literally vibrating with excitement. Finally, someone gets it. They want me to lead it. Say yes before she finishes the sentence. First order of business. Audit all sports teams for problematic elements. Make a spreadsheet. Football. Glorifies violence. Excludes non-athletic bodies. Toxic masculinity score 9 out of 10. Wrestling. Body image issues. Weight cutting. Toxic masculinity score 10 out of 10. Basketball. Heightism. Genetic privilege. Only slightly better at 7 out of 10. Baseball. Boring but mostly harmless. 4 out of 10. Start drafting proposals. Suggest we replace competitive sports with cooperative movement activities. Yoga circles. Trust falls. Group meditation. Nobody wins. Nobody loses. Everyone feels safe. Present it to the athletic director. He's this old guy named Tom. Coached football for 30 years. Looks at my presentation like I just suggested we burn the gym down. Says, "These kids need structure. Competition builds character." I reply, "Competition builds trauma and exclusion." He just sighs. Says, "You'll see." What's that supposed to mean? Start with the wrestling team. 17 boys, mostly quiet, some scholarship hopefuls. Call a meeting. Tell them we're transitioning to inclusive grappling. No more weight classes, no more wins or losses, just participation. One kid, Chris, raises his hand. Says, "But I'm trying to get recruited. I need my record." Tell him, "College scouts will understand we're prioritizing mental health." He looks at me like I just killed his dog. Another kid, Jake, says, "This is bullshit." Write him up for inappropriate language. Make a note in his file about resistance to progressive change. They all leave silent. Feel good about it. Post it on my Instagram story. Dismantling toxic athletics, one policy at a time. Get 47 likes from my teacher friends. Next week, football team. Bigger group, louder, more resistant. Tell them we're implementing non-competitive team building. No more tackle drills, no more scoreboards at practice. Quarterback, this kid Ryan, stands up, says, "Coach, we have playoffs in 6 weeks." Tell him winning isn't everything. Being safe and seen is. He says, "But we've been training all year." I say, "And now you're training for emotional resilience." Half the team walks out. Write them all up. Athletic director Tom pulls me aside after. Says, "You're destroying these kids' futures." I say, "I'm protecting their mental health." He says, "You're taking away the one thing some of them are good at." I say, "Then they need to find healthier outlets." He just shakes his head, walks away. Post update. Facing resistance from old guard coaches who can't accept change. Group chat full of teacher friends validates me. Toxic masculinity is so entrenched. You're doing amazing work. Month in, attendance at practice drops by 60%. Football team down to 12 kids from 35. Wrestling team down to 5 from 17. Basketball still hanging on but barely. Get called to principal's office. She's got a stack of emails from parents. One says, "My son cries every night because he lost his scholarship chance." Another says, "You're ruining the one thing my kid loves." Principal says, "We need to reassess this program." I tell her change is uncomfortable. They'll adjust. She says, "They're transferring schools." I pause. She says, "We've lost 23 student athletes to other districts in 3 weeks." I say, "Maybe those schools aren't prioritizing safety." She looks tired, says, "Just try to find some middle ground. Leave feeling defensive." Post on Twitter. Being a progressive educator means facing backlash from parents who want to preserve patriarchal systems. Get 12 retweets. Chris from wrestling team stops showing up to school. Hear from another teacher he's enrolled at the Catholic school across town. They have a wrestling program that actually competes. Feel a weird pang. Shake it off. He was probably too fragile for this environment anyway. Jake, the kid who swore at me, shows up to my office. Says, "Can we talk?" I say, "About your attitude?" He says, "No, about wrestling." Sits down, looks exhausted. Says, "I've been wrestling since I was 6. It's the only thing I'm good at." I say, "You're good at lots of things. You just haven't explored them." He says, "You don't get it. My dad wrestled. My brother wrestled. It's all I have." I say, "Toxic masculinity is often generational. This is your chance to break the cycle." He just stares at me. Says, "I'm not trying to break anything. I just want to wrestle." I tell him, "Maybe you need to want something healthier." He leaves. 2 days later, he transfers out. Ryan, the quarterback, stays after class one day. Asks if we can reverse the policy. Says the team voted. We all want real practice back. I say democracy doesn't apply when it comes to safety. He says, "But we're not unsafe. We're just athletes." I say, "Competitive sports create hierarchies that harm marginalized students." He says, "What about us? Aren't we being marginalized now?" I actually pause, shake it off, say, "You're confusing equity with oppression." He says, "No, I'm confusing a good coach with whatever this is." Walks out, report him for insubordination. His parents email the school, furious. Principal calls me in again, says, "You're losing the kids." I say, "I'm teaching them resilience." She says, "They're 16, they just want to play football." I say, "And I'm showing them there's more to life." She says, "By taking away the thing they love?" No response. She says, "Take the weekend. Think about this. Go home, pour wine, scroll through my feed. See a post from a former student. He's at state finals for wrestling, holding a medal. Caption says, 'Grateful for coaches who believed in me. He transferred last year before my policies started.' Feel weird. Keep scrolling. Another post. Ryan's older brother. He's playing college football, full scholarship. Picture of him with his high school coach. Caption says, 'None of this happens without the grind.' Close the app. Feel something uncomfortable in my chest. Not guilt, just confusion. Pour more wine. Monday morning, Tom, the athletic director, is in the parking lot, loading boxes into his truck. I ask what's happening. He says, "I'm retiring, effective immediately." I say, "Because of the new policies?" He says, "Because I can't watch you destroy these kids and do nothing." I say, "I'm not destroying anything. I'm protecting them." He stops, looks at me, says, "You know what protection looks like? Teaching them to lose and get back up." Says, "Teaching them discipline, teamwork, sacrifice." Says, "You're teaching them that effort doesn't matter and dreams are negotiable." I say, "Those are patriarchal values." He says, "No, those are human values." Drives away. Stand there in the cold. Feel something crack. That week, get an email from Chris's mom. Subject line, "Thank you for pushing my son away." Body of email is long, detailed, angry. Says Chris was bullied in middle school. Wrestling gave him confidence. Says he finally had friends, a community, a future. Says, "You took that from him in the name of progress." Says he's thriving at his new school. No thanks to you. Includes a photo. Chris on the mat, pinning an opponent, smiling. I stare at it for 10 minutes. Try to reply. Delete it. Try again. Delete it. Close the email. Next day, see Jake in the hallway. He's wearing a jacket from his new school. Wrestling team logo on the back. I stop him, say, "How are you doing?" He says, "Better." I say, "I hope you know I was trying to help." He says, "You weren't though." I say, "I was trying to create a safer environment." He says, "It was already safe. You just didn't like what we were doing." I say, "Competitive sports perpetuate harm." He says, "Not to me, not to us." Says, "You made me feel like the thing I loved was evil." Says, "That's not safety, that's control." Walks away. I stand there, frozen. Bell rings. Students flood the hallway. None of them look at me. Friday afternoon, principal calls another meeting. School board is there. Stack of transfer requests on the table. 31 student athletes gone in 6 weeks. Football team officially disbanded. Not enough players. Wrestling team dissolved. Basketball hanging by a thread. Board member says this is a crisis. I say change is difficult but necessary. Another board member says, we're losing funding. These kids brought in money. I say we shouldn't prioritize profit over safety. Principal says it's not about profit. It's about the kids. Says they're not just leaving sports. They're leaving the school. Says some of them are failing classes now, losing structure. I say, that's not my fault. She says, isn't it? Room goes quiet. Board member says, we're suspending the safe competition framework pending review. I say, you're giving in to toxic masculinity. He says, we're giving kids their futures back. Meeting ends. I sit there alone for 20 minutes. That night, scroll through old posts. See my Instagram from 2 months ago. Dismantling toxic athletics one policy at a time. Comments are all supportive. But I think about Chris, Jake, Ryan. Think about the 31 kids who left. Think about Tom loading his truck. Think about the empty gym, pour wine, sit on the couch, try to justify it. They were just resistant to change. They didn't understand the harm. They were too invested in patriarchal systems. But the justifications feel hollow now. Think about Jake saying, you made me feel like the thing I loved was evil. Think about Chris's mom's email. Think about Ryan asking, aren't we being marginalized now? Chest tightens. Weekend. Go to a coffee shop. See one of my teacher friends, Emma. She asks how the initiative is going. I say, complicated. She says, I saw your post. You're doing amazing work. I say, I don't know anymore. She says, don't let the patriarchy gaslight you. I say, what if I'm the one gaslighting them? She looks confused. I say, what if I took away something they loved and called it progress? She says, competitive sports are inherently violent. I say, but what if they're not? What if they're just sports? She says, you're sounding like a man right now. I don't reply. Finish my coffee in silence. Leave without saying goodbye. Monday, walk past the gym. It's empty. Lights off. Used to be full of noise, shoes squeaking, weights clanging. Now it's just silence. Janitor is sweeping, says, shame about the teams. I say, it was necessary. He says, for who? I don't answer. He says, my nephew was on the wrestling team. Gave him something to do after his parents split. Says now he just sits in his room playing video games. Says lost 15 pounds. Not the good kind. I say, I'm sorry. He says, sorry doesn't bring back what you took. Keep sweeping. Get an email from Ryan's dad. Subject line, you don't understand what you did. Body says Ryan was being recruited by 3 colleges. Says the season being canceled cost him those opportunities. Says he's not going to college now. Can't afford it without a scholarship. Says you took his future and called it safety. Says I hope you sleep well at night. I don't. Lie awake thinking about the emails, the transfers, the empty gym. Think about all the times I said, I'm protecting them. Realize I never asked what they wanted to be protected from. Next day. See a post on the school's Facebook page. Parent has started a petition to reverse my policies. 2,347 signatures in 48 hours. Comments section is brutal. She destroyed our kids' dreams. This is what happens when ideology matters more than students. One comment says, my son lost his scholarship because of her. Now he's working at a gas station. Another says, she took away the one thing that kept my kid out of trouble. I read every single comment, hands shaking. Want to reply, defend myself, but I don't know what to say anymore. Principal calls me in Wednesday, says, the board voted, the framework is being dismantled, says, you're being reassigned to a non-athletic role. I say, this is retaliation. She says, this is accountability. Says, you hurt kids in the name of helping them. Says, that's the worst kind of harm. I say, I was trying to create equity. She says, equity isn't taking away opportunity. It's creating more of it. I sit there, silent. She says, you can resign or accept the reassignment. I say, I need time to think. She says, you have until Friday. That night, drive past the Catholic school. See their football field lit up, practice in full swing. See Chris on the wrestling mat through the window. See Jake running drills. They're smiling, laughing, alive. I sit in my car and watch. Realize they didn't need saving. They needed support. I took away their outlet and called it progress. Took away their community and called it safety. Took away their dreams and called it equity. Go home, pour wine, open my journal, write, I think I was wrong. Stare at it. Cross it out. Write it again. Leave it. Think about all the kids who transferred. Think about Ryan working at a gas station. Think about the empty gym. Think about Tom saying, "You're teaching them that effort doesn't matter and dreams are negotiable." He was right. I was so focused on dismantling systems, I didn't see the kids inside them. Friday, submit my resignation. Principal says, "You sure?" I say, "Yeah." She says, "What will you do?" I say, "I don't know, maybe something that actually helps people." She says, "You could have helped them here." I say, "I know." Clean out my desk. Find a photo from the first football game of the season. Team huddled together, smiling. That was before I got involved. Take the photo with me. Last day, Jake sees me in the parking lot. He's visiting a friend still at the school. I say, "Hey." He says, "Hey." I say, "I'm sorry." He says, "For what?" I say, "For taking something you loved and making it wrong." He pauses. Says, "You really thought you were helping, huh?" I say, "Yeah." He says, "That's the scariest part." Walks away. Drive home. Sit in silence. Think about how I spent years believing I was fighting for the marginalized. Never realized I was marginalizing kids who just wanted to play sports. Think about all the posts, the likes, the validation from people who agreed with me. None of it helped a single kid. All it did was make me feel righteous while I destroyed something they loved. Delete my Instagram post about dismantling toxic athletics. Comments are still full of support. You're so brave. Don't let them silence you. But I wasn't brave. I was just loud, and I confused volume with virtue. See a news article the next week. Chris won a state championship. Jake placed third. Ryan's old team at the Catholic school made playoffs. The kids I saved are thriving without me. The kids I left behind are scattered, struggling, lost. I did that. Me and my framework and my certainty that I knew better. Still believe in equity, inclusion, safety, but maybe I don't know what those words actually mean. Maybe they're not about controlling what kids love. Maybe they're about giving them space to love it safely. I took away their space and called it progress. I took away their love and called it protection. Get a message from Emma, my teacher friend. Says, "I heard you resigned. Are you okay?" I say, "Not really." She says, "Don't let them make you feel bad. You were fighting the good fight." I say, "Was I though?" She says, "Of course. Competitive sports are toxic." I say, "Or maybe I was toxic." She doesn't reply. Sit in my empty apartment. Think about the 31 kids who left. Think about Ryan at the gas station. Think about the gym, dark and silent. Think about Tom's last words. "You're teaching them that effort doesn't matter and dreams are negotiable." I taught them their passion was wrong. Their effort was toxic. Their dreams were oppressive. And I called it education. Maybe progressivism isn't about tearing down everything traditional. Maybe it's about building something better alongside it. Maybe I was so obsessed with dismantling I forgot to ask what I was building. The answer is nothing. I built nothing. Just took and took until there was nothing left. Still don't know if competitive sports are perfect. Probably not. But they weren't the enemy, and those kids weren't the problem. I was, and they paid for it. Think about applying to other schools. But what would I even say? I destroyed a sports program in the name of safety and learned absolutely nothing until it was too late. Maybe I'm not meant to be an educator. Maybe I'm just meant to be a cautionary tale. See Chris's championship photo online. He's holding the medal, smiling, surrounded by teammates. Caption says, "Grateful for coaches who believe in us." I wasn't one of those coaches. I was the one who told him his dream was toxic, and he had to leave to prove me wrong. Late at night, think about Jake's last words. "You really thought you were helping? That's the scariest part?" He's right. I did think I was helping. I thought I was the hero. Turns out I was just another adult who didn't listen. Still post sometimes about social justice, but now I hesitate before I hit send. Wonder if I'm helping or just performing. I wonder if I'm listening or just lecturing. I wonder if I learned anything at all. Maybe the real equity is letting kids have what they love, even if I don't understand it, even if it makes me uncomfortable. Maybe that's the lesson. Or maybe I'm just trying to make myself feel better. Either way, the gym is still empty, and those kids are still gone.